Hi, welcome everyone. So today's class we're going to be focusing on one of the gait patterns that we have with walking. And so yesterday's class we were working on the arms and this movement of the arms. Today will be the movement of the legs. And there's quite a few different gait patterns, and we're probably all a sum total of them all, with maybe one or two of the them being more dominant, just depending on the different holding patterns, habitual holding patterns that you have in the body and things that are going on in your body. So the gait pattern we'll be focusing on today is this movement of a leg going into hip extension. So this leg going back, and it's the movement of the pelvis. And so when we're tight through the front, so tight into the hip flexor muscles, and then weak in the back muscle, the buttock muscles and the hamstrings, then what happens is that the leg and the pelvis move as one. And so when they move as one, and we go into this leg extension, we are starting to compress into the lower back. So we're starting to hinge at the lower back to move us forward, rather than keeping the pelvis neutral and taking the leg back. And this movement creates spinal tension. And so what we'll be focusing on is seeing if we can create more strength in the buttock muscles and the hamstrings to be able to keep the pelvis neutral. And as the leg comes back, the pelvis isn't moving forward and you're not compressing using your back muscles to move you forward. And I know which muscles I would rather be using, you know, the big muscles in the buttocks and the legs, rather than the small intricate muscles of the spine to move us with walking. Okay, so we'll come down in just a moment. First of all, before we come down, I just wanted to show you what, so we're going to do a little bit of an exploration of your range of movement with your leg, with your pelvis in neutral. So when we are walking, we're going into this hip extension. So you're wanting to take the leg back without the pelvis moving forward. So we're wanting to keep the pelvis in a neutral position. So one way you can do that is, because we'll do it on the ground, but just feeling for your pubic bone. So just drawing your hands towards each other, just down towards the front of the pelvis, and just feeling for that. And so we're wanting to keep this area neutral as the leg comes back. And so the range of movement you have may not be very big at all, and that's okay. We're just going to be starting to work on this area and start to create some freedom in the front and tone through the back. Okay, so when you come down, just come down onto your front and find that your pubic bone down into the ground. So as your pubic bone comes down, you may feel the hip points gently moving away from the ground. So we're wanting to keep this neutral position. Okay, so we'll start off by just lifting the right leg up. Now keeping the pelvis down in a neutral, okay? And you can rest your forehead down and then start to lift your right leg up towards the ceiling. And what you're wanting to notice as you do this, as you lift the leg up, do you feel the pelvis starting to tip forward? Can you keep the pubic bone down onto the ground and lifting up? And just notice your range of movement. Also paying attention to the muscles that you feel here, and then just release your leg. Okay, and then we'll switch sides. So again, you may need to reset the pelvis, pubic bone drawing down, keep the pelvis in that neutral position, and then lift your left leg up. And notice if this the range of movement on this side is different. It quite often is. And so again, it may not be very high. You're just lifting the leg while keeping the pelvis in neutral. And then just release back down. You can just move gently from side to side. Okay, now we're going to just create some feedback. So you just tap your buttock. So this is the area you're wanting to turn on. Okay, so it's like your brain connect to muscle. Okay, so again, pelvis stays in neutral. So you're going to turn your buttock muscle on. So seeing if you can activate it before you even draw the leg back. Okay, and then lifting the leg up. Can you feel these muscles, the buttock muscles, the hamstring muscles engaging? And just holding here. Give it a squeeze. And then release. Okay, well, let's move to the left side. So again, just maybe give it a bit of a tap. Basically connecting the brain with the muscle, telling your brain which muscle you're wanting to control. And the glute muscle, the gluteus maximus, is a muscle that it works when you need it. So it's one of those muscles that activates on demand, and normally when you have load on it. So it's one of those muscles that fires up when you need it to fire up, or supposed to fire up. But if it's weak, of course, it may not be firing up when you need it to. Okay, so again, you're going to just lift the, before we begin, just turn on the glute muscles, and then start to lift. Again, watch the pelvis. So you're only lifting so high, or as high as you can, without the pelvis shifting out of neutral. And then just gently release. Okay, now we're going to bend the right leg. So again, just maybe give your glute muscle a tap. Start to engage it, and then start to lift your leg away from the ground. You like to just flex your foot here as well, so as though you're trying to get your sole of your foot on towards the ceiling. Notice what this does as well, how this movement here feels in the lower back. Can you still keep drawing the pubic bone down to the ground as you lift the thigh away from the ground? Okay, and then release and give it a little bit of a shake. And one more time. So bend your left leg, again flex the foot, and then pubic bone draws down. You can give your buttock a tap, and then engage, and then start to lift. So give it a bit of a squeeze here as it lifts. Again, watch the pelvis. Notice what you're feeling in your lower back. And then release. And just relax your leg. And then you can take your arms just alongside you and just push up. Or just come back to a child's pose just to release the spine. We were doing a back extension, even though it was a small one. So just neutralize the spine here. And then come on to your back. So bring your legs forward. And just bend your knees. Okay, let's just do a few rounds of pelvic tilts. And just to free up the hips, lower back. Okay, so you're just going to start to arch your lower back away from the ground, so your pelvis is gently, your hip points moving towards your thighs. And then just release back to neutral. Again, notice that neutral position. And then you're tipping your pelvis back, navel drawing in towards your spine, spine against the ground. And again, just release, and we'll do that again. So arching, keeping the tailbone, the ribs on the ground, and curling. Tailbone may lift, navel draws in towards the ground. And just come back to a neutral position. And then extend your legs long. So you want your feet about hip width distance apart, and visualize that you're going to be trying to press your soles of your feet onto the wall opposite you. And so just have your toes pointing up towards the ceiling, and you'll be pushing through the heel. Okay, so as we do this, we did this the other day with when we were getting into the lateral parts of the hip. And so you want to even take your right hand onto your hip, and you're going to use your hand to guide the leg down. So rather than hiking up through the left side, you want to be pushing down through the right leg. So you're pushing the heel as though you're trying to get your sole of your foot, your heel, onto that wall opposite. And use your hand to guide the hip down. And as the right side of the hip draws down, you're hiking your left side of the hip up. And then just release that, and then switching. So left hand onto the hip, drawing the hip down towards the leg, leg towards the opposite wall. Notice as your left hip goes down, your right one is starting to hike up. Okay, and then again, just switching. So right leg going long, feel the left one hiking up. And then again, switch. So pushing down through the left leg, and feel like it's happening from the leg that you are lengthening forward rather than the one that's hiking up. Okay, one more full round here. So push down through the right side of the hip, out through the sole of the foot, and then opposite. Okay, come back to a neutral position, and then just bend your knees. Okay, now we'll step the feet a little bit wider on your mat. Knees are pointing up towards the ceiling. Now you're going to drop your right knee in towards your left. So you're feeling this rotation happening at the hip, And you can probably start to feel the right side of the waist lifting, or the lower back lifting away from the ground as the knee drops in towards the ground. And then just release, bring your knee back up, and then take it into the left side. So you're dropping your left knee down towards the right and then down towards the ground as the left side of the hip rolls. Okay, and let's just do that another 2 full rounds. So right side, and roll the right knee up, and then left side, lowering the knee down, allowing that left side of the hip to draw away from the ground. Okay, one more full round on the right. As you do this, observe the difference between the two sides, and then there's the left. Okay, bring your legs back to center. So stepping your feet to about hip width distance apart again. Okay, now this time push into your right foot. Allow the right side of the hip to gently lift off the ground. And then you're going to visualize that you're lengthening all the way out through the front of your right leg, out through your knee. Okay, just give the buttock muscle a squeeze here. Notice what you feel into the areas of the lower back. And then release, and then we'll switch sides. So you push into your left foot, allow the left side of the hip to just float slightly off the ground. Now lengthen out through the front of your left thigh, all the way out through your knee, as though you're trying to get your knee now on the opposite wall. And again, pay attention to what you're feeling on this left side, through the lower back. You may like to give your buttock a squeeze. You can even just place your hand there. And then release. Let's do the right side. And lower, just pause, and then the left. Again, just checking in, notice the difference. Keep thinking of lengthening out through that left leg. And release. We'll do one more full round. So the right side lifts, lengthen through the front of the leg as though you're trying to push your knee onto the opposite wall. Keeping the shoulders resting on the ground. Release the right side, and then lifting the left. So you're stable through the top of the torso. And then come back. Okay, and then you may like to just give your knees a hug. Maybe just rock gently from side to side. Okay, and then we'll come up to a, actually we'll come all the way up to standing. And we'll do the same movement of pushing down through the leg, hiking up the opposite hip. You can stand on a block if you choose. This is just an option, and you can just keep your foot on the ground. So let's start with standing on the left leg. Okay, and then you're going to be pushing down through that left side of the hip to lift the right leg up. And then just lower. And again, you can use your hand here to visualize that you're pushing down to lift the opposite leg up. And release, and we'll do it one more time, and then we're going to hold. Okay, so again, pushing down to lift the right leg up. Hold here, just find your balance. And then you're going to start to take the right leg out to the right. So you're working here into the left side of the hip. So into this lateral side. Just breathing here, not holding your breath. And if you lose your balance, just come back. You can use a chair as well if you do need to. Just holding here. Just take another couple of rounds of breath. Okay, and then release. Maybe you need to just come off the block and just walk it out. Again, the block is just an option. You can just keep your foot on the ground. Okay, let's switch to the right side. Okay, so again, you come onto the block or not. You're going to start to push down through the right side of the leg. So you visualize you're anchoring to use that to lift the left leg up. Okay, and then just release. We'll do that again. So this is not about hiking up through the left leg. You're wanting to push down through the right side to lift the left. Okay, and then again release one more time. So again, you're pushing down through that right side to lift the left, hold here, and then you start to take your left leg out to the left. Okay, and again, you're working right into this right side of the hip. Holding here, continue to breathe. Try not to hold your breath. Just lifting your leg up to a height that works for you. Okay, let's just take another full cycle of breath. And then slowly release. Okay, just remove the block off to the side. Just just walk it out for a bit just to release the hips. Okay, and then we'll come on to lying onto, which side did we just do? So we'll rely on the right side, so we're going into the left. Okay, so we'll start off with by just bending your bottom knee just to support you, and you are wanting to make sure that you're not rolling forwards or rolling backwards, so just even if you can just stack, just keeping length through the spine. Okay, and then you can just push out through the sole of your left leg. And you're going to just slowly start to lift the leg up. So again, I'm going right into this lateral side, so starting to work into the smaller glute muscles. And then lower the leg, just hovering the leg. And lift and lower. Just take it slowly. We'll do this for a few rounds, just until you start to feel this right into this lateral side of the hip. I'm not very good at counting these poses, so you may like to count and do the same on the other side. I always think it's good just to do what feels right for each side. You can stop at any time if it gets too much. So just lift, give it a squeeze when you get to the top, and then lower, feel it release. So lift and lower. Okay, let's just do one more. This will be the one more. And then roll over onto the opposite side. You may like to just give it a little bit of a tap out. And then switching. Okay, so left leg bends to support your head. You can lie on your arm if it feels more comfortable for you. Okay, so make sure you're not rolling forwards or rolling backwards. And then again, just lift your leg up and just push out through the sole of your foot, so out through the heel. And then you start to lift again. Give it a squeeze here. And then lower. And then just lifting and lowering. And again, just notice if the side feels different. And keep your hand just on the area that you feel it. Again, that helps to create feedback. So you just lift, lower, keep the leg extended. So just another couple of rounds to go. Last one. Okay, maybe again, just give a tap out and then come on to a kneeling position with your hips stacked over your knees. And we'll start off with just on your forearms with your hands interlaced. Okay, one thing to note as you do this is the pelvis. So again, you don't want to be dropping the rib cage towards the ground, your navel. So keep some tone there. So you're drawing your rib cage in, tone through your center. So you're keeping more of a neutral curve. Okay, then we'll start with the left leg. So you're going to just lift you can extend the leg to begin with. So just extending the leg out behind you and then bend the knee. Again, then you're just going to lift the thigh up. And then give the buttock a squeeze. Notice where you feel this. So we're working more into the gluteus maximus, the buttock muscle, but you may feel it in the hamstring also because we've just worked into the sides, so you may feel it in some of these smaller ones. Okay, and then just lower. And again, lift. As you lift up, try not to drop the pelvis here, so we're not tilting the pelvis, but we'll keep that neutral, the navel drawing in, more of a neutral curve. And then lower. Do it one more time, so lift, a squeeze, hold, and lower. Okay, let's switch sides. So extend your right leg long. Okay, and then start to lift the leg, bend the knee, and then you start to draw the thigh away from the ground until you start to feel it into the buttock muscle. So again, just be aware that you're not dropping the pelvis forward, really dipping into that lower back. Can you maintain the support there? And then you just lower, maybe hovering your knee, and then lift. And again, give the muscles a squeeze, and then lower. One more time. And release. Okay, let's come up onto our hands and knees. So we're going to do the same movement again. Let's target the muscles slightly different. You'll probably feel it a bit more into the hamstrings. Again, you want to watch the pelvis tilting forward. Okay, and if it does get too much for the hamstrings, then just don't take it so high, and you can keep the leg extended so you're not going so much into the hamstring. Okay, so we'll start with the left leg again. Okay, so again, just make sure you're stabilizing through those shoulders and you've got that tone through your center. So watch the pelvis as you do this. You want to keep it in that neutral position. So lifting your leg up. Okay, then bend your knee, and then again, just lifting the thigh. You're only lifting it so high that the pelvis is not starting to tilt forward. Okay, and then just lower. And again, we'll lift. And lower. One more time, so lift, notice what you feel. Again, give those muscles a squeeze, and then lower. Switching sides. So extend the right leg long, and then lift the leg, and then you can bend your knee. So again, watch the pelvis here. So can you stabilize through your center, and then lifting the thigh away from the ground. And then just lowering it, and lift. Again, lower. And lift. Your toes are drawing up towards the ceiling, lifting the thigh, but again, watch the pelvis, watch what you're feeling in the lower back. Okay, and then lower the knee down. And again, you can just take your hips back and walking your hands towards your knees, maybe curling your toes under and then lifting your knees, and then maybe just gently coming back. If this doesn't feel comfortable for your knees to be in this position, just skip this part out and just stay more in the child's pose position. Okay, we're going to come into a high lunge position. Okay, so step your left foot forward, right leg back, and we'll come up. Okay, so if you're feeling really wobbly here, you may need to take your feet a bit wider, maybe even stepping your front foot forward a little bit more. Okay, so just find your balance here. Okay, now feel like you're zipping up here. So again, we're going to find that neutral pelvis. So you may need to tilt the pelvis forward and then back. Okay, and then you want to stabilize. So feel like you're zipping up, tailbone drawing straight down. Okay, now we're going to bend into that back knee. Now again, you want to activate the glute muscle. So maybe give it a tap or give it a squeeze and use the glute to start to extend the leg behind you. And then lower. And again, give it a little bit of a tap and then use these glute muscles through the back of the leg to lift the leg up, again without rocking the pelvis forward. And we'll do that again. So bending and then squeezing, so you tone these muscles and use those muscles to extend the leg and then release. Okay, push off your back leg and then you're just going to step your foot onto the ground. So we're coming more into a warrior one pose. So pelvis draws forward. Okay, so we're going to bring the arms into the movement too. So we're going to go from warrior one to a warrior three. So we'll come into a bit of a balancing pose. You don't have to lift the foot off the ground if you don't want to. Okay, if you feel a bit off balance. Okay, but the arms are going to come into the movement too. So opposite arm, which will be your left arm, comes behind you as we start to lift the leg off. Okay, so we'll start by just reaching forward through the, let's zip up first, and then just take your right arm forward. Okay, now we're going to start to push off. Again, use your glute muscles to lift the leg and then just take your arm. Feel like you're really working into the tricep here as your arm comes behind you, and then lower. And you can just release the arms. We'll do that again. So right leg, left arm come behind you, and your front arm is just to help you balance. And then release. Again, so you're lifting up. Use the tone of the leg, the back of the legs to lift. Again, watch the pelvis, watch your lower back. And again, you're swinging the arms. So this is a motion for walking. And then as we finish the walking, the opposite would come forward. Okay, so let's switch. Come into high lunge with the right leg forward, left leg back. Okay, again, just set up. So again, you may like to just do a couple of tilts of the pelvis and find that neutral position. You can keep your back knee bent to begin with. Okay, now we're going to dip down, so bending into that back leg. Okay, and then start to activate these muscles at the back. Give them a squeeze and use that to start to pull the thigh away from the ground, to take you into this extension. Okay, and then again, bending your knee. And again, maybe give the muscles a tap. Just connecting your brain with them. So say, hey muscles, let's turn on. Use them to pull the leg into the extension. One more time, so bending. Watch the pelvis, watch your lower back here. As you do this, only take it so far that you're not having to tip forward. Okay, so give it a squeeze. And then release. Okay, now you're just going to push off that back leg to step the foot down onto the ground. And keep your feet fairly wide here, again drawing the pelvis so it's facing forward. Okay, so now it'll be left leg, right arm, go behind. So come into just bending your front knee. And you can take your left arm forward. Okay, now you're going to just push off the back foot and then use the muscles to lift the leg and take your right arm behind you. And then release, so just lowering your foot down to the ground. We'll do that again. So again, engage those muscles to lift the leg. Try not to tilt the pelvis all the way forward, so watch how this feels in your lower back. And again, release. We'll do it one more time. So just coming into the ball of your foot if you need to, and you can just work it from there. Otherwise, lifting the foot, squeeze those back muscles all the way down through the back line of your leg. Taking your right arm away, so really feeling this into the tricep. And then release. And again, if you were walking forward, then it's right arm, right leg. Okay, and then just walk it out. Nice. Okay, so again, we're still going to stay with these glute muscles. We'll come into some squats. So just stepping your feet about hip width distance apart. And we're going to bend the knees, shifting the weight into your heels, and then sitting back. Okay, so as you sit back again, watch that you're not arching into the lower back, tipping the pelvis forward. So maintain as though you're zipping up here and taking the sit bones back, and then you'll just stand up. And again, arms come back, so you're swinging the arms back, again working into those triceps. Squeeze the buttock muscles, use them to lift you out of the pose. Okay, and again, lowering and lift. Again, sinking down, squeeze and lift. And again, pulling your arms back, so you're working into those triceps as well, and then lift. Again, now only coming down to where it's comfortable for you. And just sinking down, keeping the weight in the heels. You're keeping your knees pointing forward here, feet forward. Okay, and again, as you come down, watch the tilting of the pelvis. And using those back muscles. So it's a great muscle, pose to really get into those glute muscles. Okay, let's just do one more. Squeeze and release. And again, just shake it out, walk it out. Okay, let's just do a little bit of a release. Okay, so we'll do some contralateral. So again, this is good for the brain. And we're swinging the arms. And swing them just to wrap them around your body. And then we'll bring the leg into the movement. So when your opposite shoulder comes forward, you're going to lift that leg. So the opposite leg, okay? And then we'll be switching. So you may need to start off slow again, slow just to get the movement happening. The same sort of motion with that contralateral with walking, except we're not taking everything back into extension. Okay, slow it down. Okay, and we'll come to lying down on your back. So we'll come into bridge pose, another good pose for really activating these glute muscles. Okay, one option for this pose is to use something in between your legs. So you can just place a block or a book, or it could be a ball or something in between your legs. So this is just an option. Okay, your feet will be about hip width distance apart, heels drawing towards your buttocks. Okay, and we'll start off by just hovering your hips above the ground. Okay, from here you're going to squeeze your outer shins in towards each other. So the outer shins squeezing in will activate the adductor muscle, so your inner thighs. So if you're not using your block, then this is a good move to do to really activate those inner thighs. If you've got the block, you're probably already starting to squeeze, turn on those adductor muscles anyway. Okay, now as you start to lift up higher, push right down into the ground through your heels. So as you push your heels down into the ground, you're going to be starting to activate your glute muscles. Okay, and you're probably starting to, as you lift, feel the transverse abdominis muscles, those deep core muscles turning on, pelvic floor as well. Holding here. Okay, now you want to lengthen out from through the front of the hips all the way out through the knees, as though you're trying to push your knees to the wall opposite you. So you've got your glute muscles on, opening up through the fronts of the legs. You've got all the deep core muscles turned on. Okay, now if you want to go a little bit deeper with the hamstrings, you'll push down into your heels and then visualize that you're pulling your heels towards your shoulders without actually moving your heels. And you'll feel those hamstrings turn on as well. Now keep the base of your skull on your mat. Continue to breathe. This is one of those poses where you kind of feel like you need to hold your breath. But breathing. Okay, and then we'll just slowly release. Take your time releasing. Articulate your spine. Find that neutral pelvis position. And you can just remove your block. Okay, from here, just step your feet a little bit wider, drawing your knees in towards each other. And just take a couple of breaths. Just reset the pelvis, the spine. Okay, and then you may like to just windshield wiper your legs, so taking your knees down one side and then the other. And we're just going to finish up by coming again back onto the front. And then we'll just see if we've made any gains with the extension of the leg at the hip. So the hip extension, so just coming onto your front. Again, find your pubic bone down towards the ground. So you come into a neutral pelvis, and then you can just rest your forehead down. And then again, just start to lift the leg up, activate your buttock muscles. Notice if there's any change with the range of movement you have. And then lower back down, and then just switching. Again, keep the pubic bone drawing down towards the ground. So the pelvis is not tilting forward and you're not going right into the lower back here. Okay, and then release. And then just give it a shake out. Then you're welcome to now come onto your back. You may like to just finish off with a little bit of a spinal twist to anything that your body needs before you settle into your Shavasana. And then just come into your resting pose. And thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions at all, you're welcome to private message me, or you can leave a comment at the bottom of this video. Have an awesome day. Namaste.